Francis, why are you special?
Oh, goodness.
I'm Herb Thompson, a Green Beret and resolutionist.
And I'm Corey Thompson, Herb's less hairy half and branding expert.
Our guests come from various backgrounds, but one thing is true. They are special.
I'm special because I'm the youngest of 6 kids. My mother was 25 when she had me, and I had the privilege of no expectations. I was more of an afterthought. I got to try out so many things, and if it worked, if it didn't work, no, it didn't matter because nobody even noticed.
Corey is the last of 6 kids.
I come from a blended family, but I was the last of 6.
And I are both the youngest, and there are benefits, a lot of benefits that come with, we think, from being the youngest. What we joke is one of the costs of being the youngest is we both look at each other around tax. Did you do you do our taxes? Like we're so we didn't get all of the lessons.
I think our most valued person that we pay is our CPA.
Yeah, there might have been a few years I thought I did my taxes and I didn't.
I wasn't around. You can't say that what was on
The
me.
IRS was kind enough to remind me I had not. We got that taken care of quickly once I was aware of it.
You are the youngest child, but only of 2.
Yeah, but still, listen, I just think if we look at who does their taxes and birth order, we might learn something.
That'd be an interesting study.
I started doing what you're doing. I mean, for everyone, I think the term thought leader is thrown around too much these days.
Mhm.
And you truly are like a global business thought leader, popular professor at Harvard Business School, in-demand consultant, co-host of the Fixable podcast with your wife. Often change my viewpoint or get me thinking, which I cannot say is true for most people I speak with. Probably a character flaw of mine, but how did you get started and kind of pick that you were going to go down this road?
I got here through a lot of no's. And I think that's really important. Look backwards, you can be like, oh, look at that path. Must have just been so direct. Wasn't for me. So first of all, Harvard said no to me 5 times. So
Wow.
I applied for college. I applied for graduate school. First time I applied, practically first time I came up for tenure, I got a lot of no's. Now, I don't take no as seriously as other people do. When someone says no to me, I hear not now. And because mortals are the people that are making the decisions, and I'm not going to let my life's trajectory be influenced by mortal decision makers. So I just try to package it up better and come back and do it again. So I had a lot of, second, third, fourth, fifth bites at the apple. Other thing is, I was much more well known as an athlete than an academic growing up. Even when I went to get my PhD, I thought I was going to go be a college basketball coach.
Oh, wow.
Tell the people at the kind Wharton School of Business that was the case, because I'm not sure they would have let me in. But and it wasn't until I tore my ACL playing pickup basketball as a graduate student that I thought, maybe I shouldn't go into coaching. I was in the middle of a PhD program when I committed to this path. And honestly, I'm not off a limb competitive, crazy competitive. And all of my friends from undergraduate days when I was at the University of Pennsylvania, they were all in PhD programs. And I was like, I didn't like school. I wasn't a particularly good student. I didn't like school. I didn't think the teachers were very good, and pretty much self-taught, even though I went to all of these schools because I didn't attend class very much. Oh no, they're all getting their PhDs. What am I going to do? So I kind of went to get my PhD because of competitive fire. Now they were getting their PhDs in English and, architecture and history, but I couldn't do any of that. I had one gear. I was really good at math. Like theoretical math. That's when I went my PhD on the business side. And then things went from there.
It's amazing. I love what you said about no, because this is probably one of the things that drives her most crazy about me, but he secretly loves, is that I always say no as an opportunity to get to yes, discover what the problem is to allow you to move yes.
So basketball coach, but now, global business thought leader.
I'm kind of still a coach, though, when I teach, I coach. When you say, Herbert, that you think differently after some of our interactions, that's like the greatest thing you can say to me. because that's what I'm trying to bring out the best in you, and I want there to be a difference between with me and without me. Like I want you to be able. I hope that you get something out of it. I get plenty of inspiration from you, so there's a difference in me in the before and after with you, and I'm delighted to hear that there is with you too.
Some would say you're a miracle worker if you can get me to change my thought, because I can, as Corey knows, I'm competitive. You're talking about competitive, and I'm stubborn. And probably most people don't know that.
First disagreement was over a Scrabble game. It was an intense game of Scrabble.
Yeah, we don't play too many board games anymore.
Lesson learned.
As you were coming up, not a lady, but I know ladies have different challenges coming up, especially in a male-dominated business world or academia or sports. What kind of challenges did you face, or do you think you faced any because you're a lady?
I would say I am, I don't code totally on the gender side as lady. So
Yeah,
I kind of get to pick and choose my
yeah.
I kind of have the best of both worlds. Um so I'm sure gender played a part. I wasn't really all that conscious of it. I think my direct communication style was more of something I had to deal with than the fact that I'm a woman. Like I think I had some personality traits that were no, it took me a long time to smooth out those rough edges. People were probably reacting to that more than to gender. I have certainly seen gender be an issue. I worked with my colleagues at HBS to try to if we saw demographic tendencies associated with who was getting promoted or who was getting hired, and if gender could explain those tendencies, we just wanted to make sure we weren't doing something dopey. And sometimes we were, never intentionally. And then you go fix the dopey thing, and then and then everything goes as according to merit, as opposed to artificially holding people back. I certainly witnessed it a lot and worked with on issues of gender or issues with veterans or issues with any kind of characteristic. I don't think I have experienced very many of them firsthand. I was the only gay tenured faculty member for 15 years. I was the first and only tenured faculty member until 2 summers ago. And I tried to bring that faculty member on who's better than all the rest of us. And it took like 7 years for the school to say yes. So I would say the queer thing has been much more of a deal than the gender thing.
That's a great point. You start thinking about unintentional bias versus bias. There are so many facets to how business decisions are made.
Define what I mean by bias. And I actually think bias is unearned preference.
Mm.
So I have a bias for vanilla ice cream over chocolate ice cream, right? Vanilla, it's not out of a meritocracy that vanilla won. Right? So I actually think we are pretty constantly giving unearned preference to things. So I don't mind bias. I mind unchecked bias.
Love that.
So, like, for example, most of us are biased towards people who are similar to us. The phrase I always use is we really like people who are really like us. We give a positive bias to that, an unearned preference solely out of luck that you're similar to me. So we just want to have some checks in place so that people who aren't similar to us get a fair shake. I think most bias in the world is actually of the positive kind, not of the negative kind. I think we give unearned positive preference to things without realizing it. And if we don't deliberately take a look at everyone else, they will have been harmed out of out of not having equal access to a meritocracy. And if you ask me what's my mission in the world, it's to give everyone an equal access to meritocracy.
I love that equal access to meritocracy.
What are some common beliefs of traditional leadership that you think might need to be revisited today?
Hotbed of DEI, which is just that didn't become a phrase until 2020, I believe. So it was, but there has long been, we really like people who are really like us. You look at the CEO of a company, you wouldn't be surprised to see their senior team look like replicas. You're lucky enough to have a veteran as a CEO. You're going to see more veterans on the senior team than if you're not lucky enough to have a veteran as a CEO. Well, in my mind, I hate that. because that meant you're not getting equal access to a meritocracy. We're giving in to bias. So I would say that, DEI must have been done incorrectly in trying to overcome this. But now I fear that out of our anti this phrase of DEI, we're actually going back to giving people unearned preference because being selected, and I'm like, I'm not sure that you're the best one. I kind of want to get that meritocracy thing revved up again. I'm gonna go start the lawnmower of meritocracy and try to get it going.
It is kind of that pendulum swinging, right? Like we've seen, like you're saying 2020 was probably the height, 2021, and then swinging backwards in many cases. I know people feel differently about it. It's a very polarizing topic, which it shouldn't be though, right? Like equal access to meritocracy. That should not be polarizing.
That should not be polarizing. And I say DEI must have been done incorrectly. I mean it quite sincerely because it aggravated way too many people, and for it to have been done as pristinely as the notion of equal access to a meritocracy. So I think we probably got ahead of our skis on that. And now in the remedy, we have gotten ahead of our skis. I think that's one of them that I see, which is, are we hiring and retaining the best talent, or are we giving in to we really like people who are really like us's of the world?
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll say Herb watched me work on a project where I was trying to solve for that very issue. We were attempting to find a way that could be, unanimously executed in a way that would be globally supported. Best that I could come up with was kind of doing a blind applicant selection to put forward in the applicant process. It was really fascinating to see, if you took out names, if you took out where they went to college and you literally just took the job description and then said, does this person meet this check mark? And if so, how many years? Which people were the most qualified just based off of their actual factual qualifications. And we move forward into the interview process. I can say that process was not adopted. But they did come up with an agreeable solution. We worked together to find that solution, and it was great. And I'm proud to say they have retained much of that talent. What it did was allowed me to think of things differently. What if one day we can get to that? And that actually, I think, is where AI may be able to contribute.
I'm right with you because if I do think that we bring, like, whether or not someone has a college degree or whether or not someone, if we write job descriptions, this person needs to have 10 years of experience. Why? Like, tell me what the things are. Like, I think we just inflate all of these things. And the reason I have a problem with it is that then, you know what? We're going to relax 10 years of experience for some people and not for others. We're going to relax it for people who are really like us.
plus,
And so then again, it gets to that uneven. So I'd actually rather we give, what do you really need for this job?
Mhm.
And then let's give people a chance of earning their way into it. And you mentioned the interview. So that's the app, that's the like the top of the funnel. I'm not sure we're great interviewers as a species. Research suggests that, I think it was Google, the former head of HR at Google just came out and said that superstars almost never do well in interviews because they're a little polarizing because they get so deep and they get so grumpy that they can't. Whereas mediocre people have a much better chance of just not pissing anyone off in the
Mhm.
interview process. So what they adopted is you have to have a champion. Not were you unanimous, because that's actually not going to bring out excellence. But because there were lots of people that had nobody vote against them, but everybody was like, sure. Whereas the champions, not unanimous, but can the champions fight for you? So I think the interview process is still pretty, leaves a lot to be improved.
yeah, my thoughts on it are it's safe, quote unquote, and it gets you the best mediocre candidate in often cases.
That's what the research suggests to her. We can do better.
We can often talk about trust, and probably that's the first time I became aware of you. Just trust to you, and why is it so important in not just business but our lives?
If I can earn your trust, everything else is going to go better. It just removes so much friction and it gives so much more potential. And if I can't earn your trust, kind of doesn't matter what else I do. It's going to be super bumpy and not really all that successful. So I have found trust is the foundation of very many things. And the good news about this is that before I started studying it, I believed what I what I commonly heard, which is trust takes a long time to build. And once you have it, if you lose it, you can't restore it to its prior value. And Herb, as you know, because we've spent a lot of time together in classrooms, we can build trust instantly, and we can rebuild trust to even higher than it was before. But here's the big but. You got to know how it works. If I don't give you the secret architecture of trust, it's going to take a long time to build and you're not going to be able to rebuild it. But if you get given the secret memo on how trust works, well, then you're going to realize we're losing trust all the time and we're building and rebuilding trust all the time. And it doesn't doom us, as that conventional wisdom suggests.
Bank account, it's going, deposits, debits, credits, we're going through it. And why connect with me is my old walk of life as a Green Beret. People would always, oh, because of these guns or whatever. And when I was working with indigenous forces, and I was like, no, it was earning rapport, which then led to trust. And that was my safety because I can do math and there's 100 of them and one of me. My safety is having, earning their trust and making it about that person. That's why I first came across you. It really connected.
And I bet if we had videos of watching your interactions, we would have seen the 3 magic ingredients of trust in your interactions, which is that the teams experienced you as being authentic. Hard to imagine you being anything other than that. Logical, check. But the last thing that was really important is empathetic. And that was in that last statement you meant. People experienced that it was about them. And that when you do those 3 things, you can accomplish you can do it faster and higher, which are my 2 favorite performance metrics, speed and excellence.
It was pivotal in our relationship. If you remember, this was probably early on, and I was upset about something, and I don't remember even what it was.
Probably Scrabble.
Probably. It was something, and it was
I'm
probably
just
wasn't.
kidding.
It was probably trivial, but Corey came to me and was like, "Hey, listen." I don't know if you remember.
Yeah. I said, I'm on your team and I want you to think of me as your teammate. You can trust me. Everything that I do is, in support of you as your teammate.
And everything was happily ever after that. No, it was, but it was.
I married up to her.
It's been flawless ever since.
But it was eye-opening to me, honestly, because in a professional sense, in the world I came from, there was utmost trust. Like, hey, this person's going to do this because my life depends on it, and I'm going to do this because their life depends on it. But I didn't carry that over to home, and I didn't with my spouse and my family. So it was very eye-opening for me.
We've learned a lot as individuals from business life to our relationships and vice versa. Similarly, you work with your spouse. So I would love to hear how much crossover you find there to be to relate.
So a ton. We didn't start working together, and every time we were working with someone else, we were like, oh, I miss working with you. And so just by process of elimination, we just stopped working with other people, and now it's only us. And we've built a company around it, so we have an extended team, but we just prefer working with each other. We're our favorite collaborator. Anne and I we're very good complements to each other. So I'm a very direct communicator. If I was going to lose your trust, it would be for reasons of empathy. And no one will ever doubt her empathy, ever. So already that's a beautiful compliment. And if you're going to lose trust in her, it's probably going to be for her authenticity. And it's going to be because she's so busy people pleasing that she'll kind of lose who she is in the conversation. Well, you're never going to doubt my authenticity. So, but already as a team, we're so much stronger. And I would also say the thing, put an oxygen mask on yourself before others, and I would never do that with each other. We would put the oxygen mask on each other first.
I love it. Do you both ever disagree?
Yeah.
Or perfect harmony?
No. Well, first of all, harmony is different notes. So harmony isn't a repetition of notes. So I think this is important. And we do harmonize well. But oh no, I'm like a super direct communicator. And she is really reading the room and can contextually understand things. And we come at things from very different angles. She's a great one-on-one coach. I'm really good at one-to-many. Come together for small teams, but I much prefer the one-to-very many, quite honestly. My favorite audience, is in the thousands and tens of thousands. There's singles in doing it
You're
a lot.
describing us, by the
Yeah.
way.
I think I'm describing every successful family business of the kinds that we have.
That is just awesome. So you guys, you are normal. I just can't picture you angry, Francis.
Oh, yeah, because you only see me um, when I'm performing, and I don't mean that I'm being inauthentic. I like get myself together and organize my life around my performances. Uh, it would be weird if I was angry in one of those performances.
Sure.
I can get super worked up over things. Now, I try really hard to, in the Mel Robbins of the world, to just try to let it go, to let them. But for example, where I am right now, I have a lot of my extended family around. I can get triggered.
Yeah, it's kind of like Thanksgiving dinner or something like
I've
that.
had Thanksgiving dinner all summer.
Oh,
All
that
summer.
sounds
So you're saying you haven't seen if anyone in my family, they'd be like, "Ah, ha, 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 ha." Because we go back to our teenage dynamics.
Yeah.
that's either most awesome summer or the most let's move past this and not do
Well,
it
it
again
depends
summer.
on how many separate buildings there are. I
Family vacation we took was each kid had we have teenagers, 4 of them. Everyone had their own cabin.
Yes.
Well, they were teenagers at the
Mm.
time.
I do think that separate, like, it just makes there's so much more dignity in it, and people can go and get refreshed. We're not all great all the time, but if we can go refuel in private and reset in private, and then come together in the public spaces, I'm very supportive of that idea.
Speaking of working with Ann, you co-host the Fixable podcast with her. I Is everything fixable?
I have yet to meet something that's not, but I'm not gonna say I theoretically I have a theoretical proof that everything is fixable. Just empirically, I haven't met anything that's not fixable. Now, fixable by me, because I can only help people who want help. So the largest category of not fixable are people who aren't open for help. I no longer even bother trying. And there are some people who are good at that. I'm not, and I won't try. But that to me was fixable. The only obstacle they had was the desire to be helped. Part of that, I mean, look, I look at a world stage, I don't see a single thing that couldn't be fixed. Could at the smallest micro stage, and I don't see a single thing. And yet to come across the thing that's not.
It's a great perspective and a lot of consulting work. And, oftentimes the people that hire us are not the ones that we ultimately end up working with or trying to fix the key issues with. It's been your greatest challenge. What's been that's challenged you the most?
Hit on it the first one, which is the teams that would bring me in and say fix them. And then that so I've learned I don't do that anymore. I'll tell you what has worked best. When there's a problem and they bring us in, say, if we had magic dust and we could sprinkle it on the situation, what does great look like? So instead of getting to agree on the diagnosis, tell me what great looks like. Here's the trick I do after they answer. Whatever they say, add a zero. The reason I say that, I want them to be even more ambitious because that is certainly far away from where we are today.
Yes, it is a little bit of still identifying who aligns with the type of work that we're trying to do. So I love that you've identified who aligns with the best type of work that you can do and where to approach that and what to say no thank you to.
I will say that for people that are starting out in their journey with a business, one thing that's a struggle for almost everyone is the what to say no to. You will become defined by what you say no to. Now, the reason that's hard, because in the beginning, I'm going to say yes to everything. I'm going to say yes to revenue with a pulse. Turning point in every young organization's life is even if I have the capacity to do it, I say no. That's the turning point of an organization because it means you have enough knowledge of what you're going to double down on as opposed to, do I have the capacity to do it? And because what we don't usually think is, if I say yes to that, I have the capacity to do it. But now if something else comes along, I no longer have the capacity, is there only because it was first come, first served.
We're very conscious of brand alignment, and not necessarily that we have to agree on everything, but the values kind of got to be similar. That's very important to us, even as we're some business we decided not to do just because there wasn't that brand alignment there, even though we might have made couple bucks.
I like that so much because you're already building the muscle of saying no, and it's a really important muscle to build.
And 3 months ago, there were things that we both thought were interests of directions that we take the business. See, we won't do this in the future, but at this stage, we have committed to revisiting all direction the business is going every 3 months. And it's been astounding just in 6 months' time how much we've been able to
Love it.
hone in on what direction we really want to go and really eliminate some things that back 6 months ago were maybe of top importance to us.
So important that, we're taping this in the fall of 2025. I think what everyone can agree on is we're in flux. And so now is not the time to take out the can of liquid cement and start pouring it on things. So your rhythm of doing it every 3 months, I love it. And I would advise everyone who's listening, that's the limit of where you should do it every 3 months or sooner, because there's just too much going on in the world, what's going on with technology, what's going on with the economy. There's just way too much going on for us not to keep revisiting.
Yeah, there's no shortage of uncertainty
Right.
out there, but I feel like there has to have been other times in, at least recent memory. I'm just more
I'm
plugged
not
in.
sure with the technology part of it, Herb. I think that, at least for me, I've never seen anything like AI, and I'm in the technology and operations management. Never seen anything like AI, and it's how quickly it evolves. Like what I was using it for 2 months ago and what I'm using for it now, I've never had a technology. I would have to be like flying my car to the moon for that technology to keep up with how AI has changed.
That is so true. And for larger organizations, that is something that I think is probably their new biggest challenge. And, keeping your people happy and finding the right people will always be a core component. But I think understanding technology and keeping your people well versed and ready to utilize the most current technology is going to be a real struggle for a lot of companies. I'm curious to know, how are you seeing people resolve that?
Well, I have some colleagues of mine uh, have told me they draw a graph which has the rate of change of AI is like going up through the roof, and the rate of adoption at companies is not going through the roof. So AI is further outpacing us tomorrow than it is today. Said differently, if AI stopped evolving, it would still take us 5 to 10 years to absorb what it can do today. And
Yeah.
it's only increasing at a faster rate. I think that there's no chance that anyone is going to get AI right in their adoption. And so what you have to do is build a flexible, kind, experimental environment and share the learnings like crazy.
Yeah, that's a great point and of your advice there, just to remain flexible and understand that things are evolving at a very rapid speed.
Yeah, and if you're not using, like I talk with people and they're like, no AI, no boo.
You
Well, you're gonna get passed up.
Kind
Like,
of like insisting that you keep a home phone at this point and not use your cell phone.
The phrase that has worked for me in the past is that I want you to be an intelligent consumer of what everyone else is using.
That's great. That's a
And
great thing.
unless you don't want to be in business, but if you want to be in business, you've got to be an intelligent consumer of what your customers are using. You have to be an intelligent consumer of what your suppliers are using. I'm not saying you have to be the best in the world, but you got to be an intelligent consumer of it.
uh,
It actually speaks to your point that you always talk the most about. Thinking about the customer
uh,
first should be your business
it
driver.
Well,
drives
that's
me.
where Herb and I bonded initially. You might remember me for trust, but I remember you for the customer.
Ah, I
You
love
are
that.
very customer centric. Um,
I don't understand how businesses operate not focusing on the customer. Well, I think we see how they operate, but that's
Just like the self-checkout, I'll tell this cute story on her. The self-checkout drives her nuts.
at the grocery store for folks that may not be
Yeah.
familiar with the
Right.
slow self-checkout machines.
But he would have this battle, this continuum of a battle with the self-checkout machine until I said, stop, think about it. It underwent extreme user testing and it went at the speed of the average user. They have trained this machine to behave at the speed of the average user. You are much too fast for this machine because it is behaving the way it's been trained to behave. So once he realized that, it was an immediate switch. And I
Okay,
think
so
you've stopped fighting with the self-checkout since
so
then.
first of all, I could use you in my life. Second of all, I'm still fighting with it. Third of all, look, the airlines figure it out. Like when we check in, it is designed for the fastest of us. You can like done. I'm not lowering the bar on this where I could self check out.
It's
I
I'm too competitive. It's like that's a race. Like, how quick can I get these 7 things scanned and in the bag and out of there? And it's
and
efficient.
yeah, I fear that they designed it for cost savings, and if they instead designed it for the great customer experience, it would be entirely different. And if they designed it for a great customer experience, it would have saved costs. But if you designed to save costs, you can compromise the service experience. If you design for a great service experience, you can still get lower cost.
I think you just highlighted something I had not thought of. It slows down. I get somewhat angry. Corey walks away. I can check it out. She comes back with more stuff that we end up buying that we would not have bought
You just
initially.
hacked the system.
Maybe it's genius.
I do think, though, that there's some truth to what you're saying, and that if people were to just slow down and focus on the customer, that does in the end make them more profitable. You highlight that.
Yeah, well, the first book that Ann and I wrote is called Uncommon Service: How to Win by Putting the Customer at the Core of Your Business. We had to write the book because so many businesses, they came into being for the customer, but they lost sight of the customer and then were thinking about themselves. I think I'm thinking about myself. I want to cut costs. Now, I'm crazy competitive. I want to have the most profit possible, but I'm going to make sure that I do it via the customer experience, not in lieu of the customer experience.
As we wrap up here, what do you value most in life?
No. Yeah. So my sons are teenagers. And what I value most is when the 4 of us and our 2 dogs, so the 6 of us, just have a bubble of bliss. We just have like we're all at the beach together going for a morning walk. Um, that is pretty close to perfection. Now, I'm enjoying the walk for the exercise. My kids are enjoying the walk because if the fish are jumping, they're running back to get the fishing poles. So it's and my wife is, because every day it feels like you're in a different place because depending on the weather, the beach feels different. So I would say when the 6 of us go to the beach in the morning, that's perfection. And what I value most are those moments of family bliss.
We're just so grateful that you gave us your time and your insights, and appreciate your friendship. And thanks for coming on the show. Is there anything we should have asked you that we did not?
Well, what you should have asked me is, what's my endorsement for the 2 of you? And so let me just give that unsolicited, which is you have wonderful values. You are protectors, but you're also inclusive. And I don't always see that together. So you have really beautiful chemistry. And so I encourage anyone who gets to be in your ecosystem, I would run, not walk to get there.
Thank you.
I did not expect to almost tear up on this episode. There's a couple I think like, okay, I may tear up. This was not one. That was pretty close.
Subscribe, like, and comment, and don't forget to set those notifications. We'll see you next week with another special guest.
Until then, own your journey.